Yo, what's good? NBA YouTube. It's your man 100 grand, Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Today I want to talk about these Knicks and my man Obi Toppin finally getting the opportunity to show what he can do. And the boy looked good. If you like this video, I want you to smash that like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Today against the Charlotte Hornets, head coach Tom Thibodeau for the New York Knicks. I don't know if the front office forced him by benching Julius Randle, but Obi Toppin was in the starting lineup. He finished the game with 18 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block, shooting 2 of 4 from the three-point line in an overall efficient game. Something that I want to point out. There's a saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And unfortunately, Tom Thibodeau is still that old dog. He is still the coach stuck in old school ways who doesn't seem to be able to learn and grow with the game. I want to point out something to you. Obi Toppin finished this game with 40 minutes. He played 40 minutes as a starter. Now you might say, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is that this young man looked exhausted by the end of the game. Some of y'all might be thinking, oh, well, he's tired. He should be tired, playing hard. The thing is, the Knicks had this game well in hand towards the end. And it's not so much that this one moment of playing 40 minutes was wrong or this evil, bad thing in and of itself, but it's a part of a greater narrative. Tom Thibodeau tends to, unfortunately, not go deep into his roster. He doesn't trust young guys. He rides his starters, plays them heavy minutes while demanding of them to play extremely hard. Unfortunately, in the game of basketball, where you play 82 games in a season, plus the playoffs, you might be playing close to 100 games. That wears on your body, especially for athletes, guys who run and jump a lot. We've seen what happened with Derrick Rose in his hands. We've seen what happened with Zach LaVine in his hands. And then we continue to see it with these New York Knicks. That he refuses to kind of get this understanding that he needs to go deeper into his bench and play his younger guys. The young guys who have all the energy in the world. Young guys who are waiting for an opportunity. And the sad part is the Knicks have been having a bad season all along. I said from the very beginning, last season was a fluke. It was one of those one-offs. And it was one of those years that they probably took advantage of playing harder than other teams, but at the same time, didn't realize that many of these teams were losing on purpose just so they can get a high draft pick in last year's draft, which was a draft that is probably likened to the 2003 LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade draft, Chris Bosh included. It was one of those drafts that it was worth having a down year for. Because if you got a top pick, like Cleveland is seeing, like Toronto is seeing, even Detroit, like many of these teams are seeing, they understand that you're going to get a talent that's going to be a long-time starter more than likely. But Tom Thibodeau wanted to win, and so, he pushed it, was able to get in. Gentleman's sweep in the first round, and they cashed out. This season, they don't catch people by surprise. They're not playing a bunch of teams trying to lose on purpose because this draft, I think, is fairly accepted that this is a weak draft. Teams aren't necessarily vying to get a top pick in this draft at all. And so now all of a sudden you're running into a league that's no longer shocked by you guys, no longer surprised by you guys. They're prepared. They know what you want to do. Everybody knows Julius Randle wants to do his spin, step back jumpers and all that stuff. They understand RJ Barrett, is going to struggle with his right hand a little bit, but he's going to do his thing. They were more than able to game plan for Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier being minus defenders losing Reggie Bullock, who's now winning with the Dallas Mavericks, and Frank Ntilikina and Elfrid Payton. All of a sudden now they don't have game managers and guys who can fit a role instead of trying to play a larger offensive role. And now all of a sudden the team doesn't look as good. The reality is the team was never that good in the first place. You measure their roster up against most other rosters, it doesn't really measure up. It doesn't. I'm sorry. And yet, the coach still keeps playing the starters 40-plus minutes, not playing the young guys, like Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppin. Miles McBride barely got in this game, and they were shorthanded. Quentin Grimes barely got minutes. I think he ended the game with maybe 14 minutes, 15 minutes. And yet, one of the things that they've been needing all season long was a true floor general, Miles McBride. A consistent three-point shooting threat, Quentin Grimes. And most importantly, perimeter defense, which both of them provide. And yet they didn't get minutes. Now, Quentin Grimes did get a little bit, but not nearly consistent enough. You see, there's something about the game of basketball where they say you can't cheat the game. It is what it is. You cannot always work harder versus smarter. It's not always about giving 100% maximum effort every moment that you're out there on the court. We all like to think that, but that's not the reality. The reality is guys get tired. The game of basketball, especially at the professional level, is one of the most athletic games you will see out there, next to maybe professional football, or I should say soccer. It's not like the NFL where you have breaks between downs, where it's a quick sprint and then it's a stop. There's no stopping. You're going back and forth, side to side, up and down, jumping vertically, 35, 40 inches at a time, boxing out, setting screens, rolling to the basket, kick the ball, pivot. Guys get tired. And so it's important that you utilize your depth and you set up an offensive system and a defensive system that allows you to work smarter, to preserve energy, to be able to play at a high level maximally. And yet Tom Thibodeau continues to struggle with that. You see, when you look at this team, this was a team that should have been focusing on the development of their younger players since last season. Really since the season before. Really for the past 2 or 3 seasons, even with Kevin Knox. They should have been playing him, guaranteed, 20-plus minutes a game. Why? Because the roster was never that good. They were never supposed to make the playoffs. That's not what they were set up for. They were supposed to be officially rebuilding, doubling down on building what they call the right way. Not trying to go after big market free agents. They missed out on Kevin Durant. They missed out on Kyrie Irving. This was the moment they're supposed to go with the youth movement. And now it's almost a little bit too late. Obi looks great, but you got 4 more games left, 5 more games left. Miles McBride, what can he do? We won't know. There's only 5 more games left. And so now we're in kind of a waiting pattern. They picked up Cam Reddish, and I respect this move. They gave up a first rounder for him. They should give him the money because eventually he's going to take Evan Fournier's spot. But he's a far better pickup than anything they would have gotten in the draft. A 6'9" guard forward. Extremely versatile. And yet, he even wasn't getting minutes when he first got to the Knicks. After giving up a first rounder for him. It doesn't make sense. Mitchell Robinson, you need to give this man the money as well, even though Jericho Sims looked really good as well. Give these guys the money, but you have to get a coach who is going to be able to maximize their talent. The final move for these Knicks is to get themselves that coach. The roster seems just about ready. All they need is for these young guys to take the next step. And for that, you're going to need a coach who can coach both sides of the ball. Smarter, not harder. That should be a theme for next season. Smarter, not harder. They've got the identity. They're going to play hard D. Now let's help these guys develop. Because otherwise, they'll be looking at another year in the lottery. And another what if. Let me know what you guys think of this video. Smash that like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notification. And I'm out, y'all. Peace.